Inspiring Gateway, I'm Asia. I wanted to do a part two, truth as a roadblock, to talk about the negative polarity of truth and how that can have negative impact on our life based off of truth. And I want to give examples of how these things can happen in our everyday lives, and especially if we're on our spiritual path. So we talked about the positive things about living in truth, and another way to identify truth is the negative aspects of not living in truth, and that can definitely be considered a roadblock on our spiritual path, because if we are not living in our actual truth, then we are going to be living out of falsehoods and illusions and delusions and all kind of things that'll prohibit us from excelling or ascending or coming out of karmic cycles in our path, and also to become the people who we came here to be that person, to be that being, or however we express ourselves. So falsehoods and illusions is a good way of identifying alternative truths, because it can be considered a truth depending on how you perceive it. But another way of perceiving a truth is through a falsehood. A falsehood is something that is not particularly lining up with actual real events that manifest in this physical dimension, but it also can be perceived as truth, because lies are also perceived as truth until they are discovered to be something other than what they are. So it's just a matter of perception, but not living in your truth. And this is something that happened to most of us here. If you didn't have any access to information or lineage or knowledge of the self, yourself, and who you are, then we are kind of ingrained in this society to grow up under many different falsehoods, illusions. What's my phone doing that? Illusions and delusions. Interesting. Which is also a part of what people consider the matrix. Interesting. What's the light? So that's considered illusions when you're not living in something that is true to reality. But then that's also your perception of reality, because there's many different ways of perceiving reality. But the way that we are able to connect is through grounding, through the actual manifestation of different thoughts and ways of seeing and perceptions. They all have to have some form of real in order to be in this third dimension. And real is material. Material comes in lighter forms, which is in the spiritual state, or lighter forms what consider real, because people think that dreams are real. It just depends on our perception and are able to connect to this third dimensional reality. Anyways, truths can be a roadblock, because if we're not able to accept the truth, that's another form of, now it's distracting me. Oh, yeah, see, it's the light. Here we go. So not being able to accept the truth is a form of living in an alternate reality, and that'll definitely block you from your path, and could actually get you killed if you're not living in alignment with who you are. Because you're living under, it could be possible to be living under different behavioral systems, and you get, and that can deal with getting you to live in a certain area and partake in certain things that are not necessarily on your individual path. And a lot of people aren't able to accept the truth, which blocks them off from being their true authentic self and being on their individual path, because you are then, if you're not living in your truth, then you're going to be living in some other sense of reality, or a falsehood, however you want to call that. So overall, on our lifespan here, our life cycle here, we are individuals, and the more that we're not able to accept our truth is living under, it could be considered living under an illusion or a falsehood. And then depending on how we live our lives, we partake and participate in certain things and certain behaviors, which can either keep us stuck Okay, because not accepting the truth is like a roadblock and keeping you stuck from moving forward. Um, where you can also land in spiritual jail, not being able to accept the truth, especially within ourselves. That can be a sense of a roadblock in our path and what we're trying to achieve, both for our individual selves and also what we're trying to achieve spiritually. Um, and also keep us stuck in certain cycles and participating in certain behaviors and passing those things down to our children on the bloodline. And just not accepting the truth can produce those certain type of outcomes. So accepting the truth is very important. It's part of not being able to accept the truth is a form of stagnation, is a form of keeping you stuck in a certain place in your life, or stuck in certain behaviors and patterns or whatever. These things are obvious because you can tell them through people who have fears. Fear is a way of not accepting the reality of the situation because it is an alternate state of reality. Just because you're scared of something, that doesn't make it real. It's just a way of seeing. And so that is a form of a roadblock, a prevention from moving forward in whatever you're trying to achieve. So when we're not able to accept the truth or even convey the truth, that has a very big impact on our actual spirit, our actual being, because depending on where we are in this path, a lot of people are not awake, aware of who they are as individuals and what actually they're doing here. So that's living in an alternate state of reality, just by not even knowing who you are. That means you're out of touch with your individual truth and your makeup and the aspects about you that should be known, not necessarily be fed certain information, because a lot of times we just accept things as truth, and that's also dangerous and can be a roadblock. It's just accepting things as truth just because of some sense of trust, and hopefully there is somebody, a being that's acting out of integrity, where you are able to accept their form of truth, their version of truth, their truth, in order for you to identify that within yourself. But the thing is, the main thing is the massive amount of manipulation that has taken place, especially when it comes to people and who they are. So it's important to understand that and live in that truth of who you are, because otherwise you're going to be acting out of your individual character, your individual makeup, and it doesn't tend to serve you. That's what self-love is serving yourself, making sure you have proper boundaries and you're aware of what's going on around you, knowing what karma you have, what karmic situations and experiences you're participating in. That's a part of self-love, not just going to get your nails done and stuff like that. It's about taking care of yourself, protecting yourself, being the guardian of your ship. That is self-love. The best explanation for me of self-love is taking care of yourself in all aspects of yourself. If you're just seeing yourself one-dimensionally, then you're probably just going to be locking your door, and it's so much more. You need to lock your spiritual doors as well. Know how to do that, open and shut, attach, detach, boundaries. These are all spiritual principles in order to guard and care for your spirit. It's a security system. So truth is definitely a security system when it comes to things in the spirit, because people can't really manipulate truth that much. When something is authentic to its actual form. So when something is in spirit, the same in spirit as it is in the physical, then that gives us a fuller perspective of clarity and able to perceive truth. Now, when things are hidden and things are in the dark and you only have things in the light, then you're able to fall under certain manipulation and magicianry, because you're not seeing what's happening in the spirit to have that holistic point of view, that perception. So Truth is very important to understand, especially when it's on our path, because truth, not us not wanting to deal with truth or avoiding truth in any type of way, it prevents us from moving forward. um, you can avoid it all you want to, or try to keep things in the dark all you want to, but we know that good old saying, what happens in the dark will come to the light eventually. So nothing, especially in these times, nothing is really gonna be hidden. So truth is an important aspect, because it can save your ass spiritually, or you can fall victim to, the falsehoods, whatever side you're on the spectrum you are, whether you're somebody that believes in things or you somebody that is manipulating things. But either way, there's consequences for both. That's why it's important to know who you are, living your truth. Um, be your authentic self, know what roadblocks are, how truth, not accepting truth, not being able to perceive truth, not knowing is all information that can steer you off, keep you trapped. Okay, keep you trapped spiritually. I'm not talking about like somebody, well, it can happen. If it's in the spirit, it could be a possibility that you can end up getting yourself trapped in a jail cell. It's just how things work in the spirit. But if you're not aware of how things are working in the spirit, then you're going to be less likely to be able to identify truth and have the eye to see, in order to have clarity, in order to maneuver through your life on your spiritual journey.